So Spotify are once again in the news, and usually when it comes to Spotify, it's usually negative. And let's talk all about that. Hi guys, welcome to the channel. I'm a little bit late to the party with this whole Spotify debate. I've been away, obviously, life has gotten in the way. Things have happened, good things, but I'm back. But I wanted to talk about that Spotify rift, mainly the rift that arose between Neil Young and Joe Rogan. Now, I've done a video on Spotify before, probably about a couple of years ago, and I will link to that video in the description below if you can watch that. And that video was more about the streaming and, you know, what you get paid as an independent artist. And we also spoke about whether it's fair or not, you know, what is on offer for independent artists. But in this video, it's going to be basically a three-part video. I want to speak initially about the rift between Joe Rogan and Neil Young. The second part of this video will be a reactionary part of the video, and that is where I will be watching some famous musicians talking about Spotify, and I'll be reacting to what I think about what they say about Spotify. And then on the third part of this video, I will be giving you my feelings on Spotify from the perspective of an independent artist, but also a artist development coach. So let's jump into it. So a big rift occurred between Joe Rogan and Neil Young. Now I had to laugh when I heard the news Neil Young has a go at Joe Rogan. I honestly did think, I know that name. Is he still alive? And I did laugh because a meme came out shortly after that. And the meme said something like, anyone below the age of 30 is saying, who's Neil Young? Anyone from 30 to 60 is going, Neil Young, is he still alive? And anyone from 60 and above is saying, you know, Spotify, what's that? And indeed, that was my reaction, being in the 30 to 60 category. I was thinking, my God, Neil Young, is he still alive? And I was a bit annoyed with Neil Young's reaction of, hey man, I'm going to take my music off. And I don't want to sort of derail this video. You guys know how I feel about this cancel culture. You know, it's almost like, I don't like what you say, I'm going to shut you down. I don't like that. You know, I'm from a generation where we used to talk and debate and dialogue. You know, we're not 5-year-olds. We discuss things. And indeed, if you go through life not discussing things you don't want to hear, you're not going to learn anything, and we cannot progress and move forward anyway. So it did annoy me when Neil Young threw his toys out of his pram saying, shut Joe Rogan down or take my music off Spotify. And of course, then, you know, the rift occurred and all the funny memes started to come out. This being one of the funniest ones. Nickelback threatening to put more music on Spotify if Joe Rogan doesn't take his music down. Ha ha. Silly joke. Now, Joe Rogan has a platform of over 11 million subscribers, and I think this bad publicity probably did a lot of good for him. I know CNN and the likes of those big legacy media corporations, they all jumped on the bandwagon as well. And if I was CNN, I would hate Joe Rogan as well, because can you imagine CNN? Look at the size of their operation. And they've got less subscribers. They've got less followers than Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a beast. And whether you like him or not, you've got to face the fact that he's a podcaster. He's just a guy with a few cameras, and his reach is huge. No wonder the big guys want to shut him down. But anyway, I also understand, you know, I have a channel, and modestly speaking, I'm nowhere near Joe Rogan's size. But I do think that you have a responsibility in what you say. And certainly, like the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Not talking about myself here, but with, you know, a channel the size or a podcaster with a reach of Joe Rogan, he does have a certain responsibility. Now, I believe the whole rift kicked off because Joe Rogan was he's always been not an anti-vaxxer so far as COVID is concerned, but he was questioning a lot of things. I don't want to go into the details of it. You can look those up online, and I'm sure you all know about that. I'm basically just saying is, if Neil Young was clever, what he should have done was, he should have said, Joe Rogan, I disagree with you. I'd like to come onto your show and debate it with you. And this is what I like about Joe Rogan is, and this is why he's winning. Because you see, in this day and age, I find that people just want authenticity. People are so sick and tired of bullshit and phony and fake. And you must remember, when you watch the legacy media like CNN, BBC, and all these, you know, the proper channels where we're supposed to get our news from, usually everything is quite contrived. The presenters are fake. They can't be authentic. They can't swear. Everything's got to be in a certain, like the news will come in on, it'll be a half an hour. They need to get everything across, and they need to be able to fit the adverts in between. You take a podcast like Joe Rogan. He sits there for 3 hours. He smokes weed. He drinks booze. They get drunk. No, don't do drugs, kids. I'm not endorsing that. But what I'm trying to say is people want authenticity. And whether you like Joe Rogan or not, this is the move that people are doing at the moment. People are not trusting the mainstream media. They are really going for these independent, more authentic, independent bodies, people, podcasters, etc. And I'm going off topic now. Let's bring it back. So if Neil Young was clever, he should have said, hey, Joe Rogan, I disagree with you. I'd like to come on your show and debate you. And that would have been a clever move, because that would give him a whole new audience. Because let's face it, because up until this started, a lot of people were going, who's Neil Young? Indeed, my age group were thinking, God, is this guy still alive? So, Neil Young, you missed a trick there, and I think you made yourself look like an idiot by behaving like a 5-year-old. Live and let live. Go on and debate. The good thing about Joe Rogan is he gets people onto his show that he disagrees with. It's not an echo chamber. He does have disagreements, and he's human, and when he makes mistakes, he apologizes. Now, you might say I'm a Joe Rogan fan. I think I am. And that's your opinion. So if you want to unsubscribe now, unsubscribe. I don't care. But if you're grown up, let's continue the debate. So to summarize my feelings on this, hey man, I see this more and more, and especially on my channel. People will get so offended by things I say. And I sometimes say to people, you're 50 years old. When did you realize that life was not fair, and not everyone's going to agree with you? Once again, we need to have the conversations, and we need to hear things that we don't agree with and see things we don't agree with. Otherwise we won't move forward. And I can't believe I'm saying this, because it is such common sense. But to summarize on the Joe Rogan thing, I understand that with great power comes great responsibility. You have a responsibility when you have a big channel to say things, to be responsible. But within that, freedom of speech is important, and being able to express yourself without fear of being shut down is very, very important. And these days, people are just muzzled, and they're kind of like terrified to say the wrong thing because they don't want to get shut down. Anyway, I've said enough about that. Neil Young, if you were clever, you should have gone on for an interview with Joe Rogan. He would have welcomed you with open arms, and it would have been an interesting, grown-up, mature debate, the way we used to debate things in the old days. Okay, so I want to jump onto the second part of this video, where I'm going to react to some famous artists giving their opinions on Spotify.
Certainly, it's been a great experience, and I love Daniel Ek. Is just a great man, and often you can tell a lot by a company and an experience by the people.
Okay, I just want to stop this here and call me a cynical bastard. It's just that I'm so used to hearing negative things about Spotify all the time. Obviously, and it's a perspective. I coach artists, and also me being an independent artist, and I'm so used to hearing the negative barrage of expletives directed at Spotify all the time. So it's just funny to actually hear this. It's like, what? Here is the multi-millionaire drummer for Metallica blowing a lot of smoke up Spotify and Mr. Daniel Ek's arse.
That's my belief. You can tell a lot by a company and an experience by the people.
You can tell a lot about a company by the people, yes.
My belief. And Danny's he's a great man. And
okay, you can tell a lot by a company by the people. You absolutely can. You can also tell a lot by a company by the way they treat their staff, and in this case, how wealth is distributed and fairness. And I'll give you my verdict at the end.
It has a great soul, and I love Spotify. Now, Danny's he's a great man, and has a great soul, and I love Spotify. Now, whether...
Okay, he is seriously kissing ass. Daniel is a great man, and I love Spotify. Now, I cannot speak for Daniel Ek's character. This is not an attack on Daniel Ek, the person. I do not know him, so that would be unfair for me to say that. He does represent Spotify, and unfortunately, the way it goes is when a company does wrong, you at the top representing it, you're going to take all the fire. And, that's regardless of whether you're a good person or what it is. Because you essentially become the face that represents that company. And I'm just... Anyway, let him finish and I'll...
We talk about this 10 years from now, whether it's the future or not. I don't know if it's limited to a yes or a no, but it certainly is working right now.
So, here's Lars saying, essentially blowing so much smoke up Daniel Ek and Spotify's arse. And as I say, this was quite shocking to hear, because I'm so used to hearing negativity about them. Now, of course, it depends on what perspective or what side you're on, because, I'm sure there's some people having a wonderful time with it. But I'm not a Metallica fan, but I just think, if I look at Metallica, yeah, it was all really, yeah, Metallica, testosterone, yeah, really sort of like anti-establishment, yeah, fuck yeah, Metallica. It was all sort of that, and now he's kissing the corporate backside of Spotify. So it's, selling out, mate, selling out.
It's working right now.
It's working right now, okay, and that's a view, because it's working for some. Okay, Gene Simmons from Kiss. This is the one I really liked.
No, but it certainly is working right now.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster because the fans have decided, and they've been trained to, not pay for music.
Absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's a disaster because fans have decided, and they've been trained to not pay for music. Now, I've often said that we should not blame the general public. We should not blame the fans. Why should you pay for something if you can get it for free? That's just the human condition. We'll get into that a little bit later. As far as the consumer is concerned, it makes perfect sense to be able to pay $10 a month and to listen to a limitless amount of music. So from the consumer's point of view, it makes perfect sense. So we can't really attack the public and the fans for this.
That means the next Beatles and the next Elvis, it's free. Imagine a supermarket. Farmers have worked all their lives to grow the fruit and the stuff, and the trucks and the unions that bring it to the stores, and the beautiful stores and the people that work there. Imagine walking in there and being able to walk out with anything you want without paying for it. How long is the farmer going to stay in business? How long is retail going to stay in business?
Now, that's a brilliant analogy, just bringing it down to sort of like everyday life. How long would a supermarket remain in business if you could just walk in, fill up your basket or your trolley with whatever you wanted and just walk out? That doesn't make sense. And that is essentially what's happening in the music industry here, is that it's the knock-on effect of when no money comes in, it cannot sustain itself.
So everything is dying because fans have trained themselves not to pay for the music. Look, you're not affecting me. I'm doing okay. My rent's paid. But you're killing the new band. You're killing the next Beatles. Look, my daughter had a 10 million, Sophie Simmons had a 10 million viewed single last year, 2 years ago. 10 million. She made $214.
$214 off 10 million streams. Now, okay, that's... hey, man, some of you are clever. Just work out the maths on that. That sounds a bit exaggerated. So far as once again, I've got music on Spotify as well, and of course, I've never had 10 million streams. But that ratio just sounds very, very low to me. For 10 million streams to get $214, hey man, that just makes you want to give up right now, doesn't it?
Spotify's taking all the money. The acts are taking a small percentage of 1 penny per download, which is a crime.
Gene Simmons summed that up very, very well.
Crime.
There's a reason that Tool waited as long as they did to put this stuff up on streaming services, because they knew they weren't going to be compensated for something that they worked their asses off.
This is something that I've seen a lot of independent artists do, and it's something I did myself as well, was before you make your songs available for streaming, you release them on Bandcamp or on hard copy. And that way, for a certain period of time, you can hopefully, make some money from the sales of your fans before it goes on streaming. Because once it's available on streaming, most people will not buy your hard copy if they can just stream it, because it just makes sense, because streaming is a lot more convenient. It's cheaper. It's virtually free. So why would people buy your hardcore copy, your solid copy or your hard copy? And then I suppose as an independent artist, you just really are depending on your die-hard loyal fans. But the Spotify business model is ingenious so far as it does really give the end user such great value for money.
The difference between streaming and radio is you make money off radio because of the publishing that's involved. With streaming, there really is no publishing that is promised. That money goes directly to, and technically it's mechanicals, goes directly to the label.
Yeah.
So the label is making huge amounts of money, and they are not contractually bound to pay us for that because of what they call new technology. We don't have a problem with people listening to our music. What we have a problem with is these streaming services basically treating it like we owe them, which is not the way it should be.
Look.
Well, there you go. There it's once again, that's the labels who are not really sort of, fighting the corner for the artists and, really just lining their own pockets. No surprise there. Right, and the next one was Mr. Billy Corgan, and this was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
And the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services, they got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist to take a greater equity position in a rising business.
And there is exactly, Billy is actually elaborating exactly on what I said there, is that the labels now have really, who should be fighting the corner for the artist, but obviously going to line their own pockets first. So the artist is not only having to deal with the small percentages that come from mechanical, streaming and all that. If you're signed to a label, the label is essentially putting themselves first before you, the artist, and it's no surprise. I do like this next one from Steve Vai. He gives a very, this is the most sort of positive, optimistic view of it, and it's kind of the view that I take on this as well. Listen.
Rising business.
There's usually 3 different attitudes that I see from musicians. One is the doom and gloom. Everything sucks. Everything. The fucking music industry sucks. I'm dead. I can't sell records anymore. I'm going to hell in a handbag, the whole music industry, because digital ruined my life, streaming and all these things. Another perspective that's of a higher quality is when you look at all the digital or any of the technology that's available to you, and the attitude is, how can this serve me?
This is something I've often said. You guys have often heard me say this on the channel, and to my students always go, well, instead of fighting against it, ask yourself, how can this work for you? And, we are at a great time now where, whereas before record companies or labels, they used to be like the gatekeeper. Back in the day, you could not release music without, a label. You would need the funds, you would need the resources, you need a studio. And of course, these things cost money. And I suppose the good thing about the way it is today, it's made the technology more accessible, and therefore everyone has a chance. So that is the positive side. So I always try to emphasize that, and that is exactly what's been said here.
The third perspective, which is probably just for few people to breathe this air, they look into the technology and they think, okay, what is it missing? What doesn't it have that I want? And these are the innovators. So really, you need to just decide what your perspective is, and that will be your reality.
Well, I do love, that is, to me, probably, besides Gene Simmons's rant, this is probably the most constructive of all the comments. And I do strongly agree with this, because it's looking at something positively and saying, okay, this is where we are, but how can I make this work for me, instead of ranting about things not being perfect? And I say there are a lot of benefits to the music industry, so as it stands in the world at the moment. And of course, there are downsides to it as well. But I suppose it is really just choosing your perspective. I have often said that the person, the next Bill Gates or the next Steve Jobs or the next Elon Musk, is the person that will solve this dilemma. And this dilemma being finding the solution for the dilemma that ensures that the artist is well compensated at the same time that the customers and the consumers can be fulfilled in the way that they are now, so that everyone actually benefits. The person who can crack that is going to be the next Bill Gates, I reckon.
Piracy is what killed aspects of this industry. Streaming is bringing it back.
Perfectly said. Piracy is what killed the industry, but streaming is kind of bringing it back.
The difference is that every band needs to really pay attention to what their record contract says. You have to negotiate, you have to hardball, you have to, and you have to try and improvise and adapt and overcome. I've said that a million times.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. I like that. And check out what Josh Katz has to say. Now, this is also a rather unpopular view with a lot of people.
I'm one of the few people who's in the music industry that really likes how things are going. Like, I like streaming. I don't mind that people don't buy records anymore. Maybe it's just because I was born into that sort of, and I was thrown into it once this became my career. And so that makes perfect sense to me, how everything works. And I don't mind it. I also feel like the way that everything is set up now with the internet, anybody who has any bit of talent has a shot to make it. And I think that's really cool.
You might.
Well, I suppose he's right in the sense that the way it's set up today is that people can set, the way things are today, anyone who's got the talent can put themselves out there and have a shot at making it. He's obviously talking from a perspective of, I don't want to say privilege, but they've obviously done okay. That's why he's not sort of dissing Spotify too much. And this is indeed what I'll give you my verdicts in the end of the video. It really depends on the perspective. And, certainly in the case, I suppose the person I've been the most sort of critical on here is Mr. Lars from Metallica, because he's just really blowing smoke up Spotify's arse, and I don't think he I just think he's so out of touch that he doesn't really know what this really all entails. And finally, I believe in a thing called love. What's his name? Jason Hawkins. I believe in a thing called love. I'm laughing at you too, mate.
Hello?
Hello.
This is Spotify. These are the ones where you people had to sort of beg them for more royalties while they're driving around in their Bentleys and so on.
Brilliantly said, mate. Perfectly.
Probably. I don't know what they drive. Also, I don't care.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to jump into the next segment of this video. So there you have it. Some very different opinions from different artists, some which you may or may not disagree with. Right, in this part, I want to talk about my personal opinions on Spotify. What do I use Spotify? Should you? Let's jump into that. Now, before we do, let me just play a little bit of devil's advocate, as I always do. Understand this. The world does not need your music. It does not need my music. The music industry, as in many creative industries, is completely oversaturated. Now, I do not say that to discourage you or to make you stop. It's just a reality. If we bring this back to the Industrial Revolution, remember before the Industrial Revolution, supply and demand. Before the Industrial Revolution, there was a huge supply problem with huge demand. Fast forward to the present date now, and it's only going to get worse. We have inverted that pyramid. It is now we have huge supply with not much demand. How many songs and artists are coming out every single day? And technology has made it easier for us to do. So do you think it is your right that when you put music up that people should just listen to it and buy it and stream it? Let's think back once again in the 70s and the 80s and before that. The only way you could release music was through a label. And I guess the labels and the record companies were like the gatekeepers. They were like the arbiters that would decide, is your music good enough to release? And some say that's a good thing because it held a certain standard. But then others say it was a bad thing because there are people who are worthy of releasing their music but could never do it. So there are pros and cons. I think personally, as an artist development coach, I think if you can harness the positive side, as that musician said in my reaction section of the video, where he said, look at this technology and see how it can work for you. I think that's the positive way of looking for it, instead of going, this sucks, and being stuck in the past. I do want to have a go at Spotify so far as the income that they pay you is. You see, I'm an artist. I'm not a banker. I'm not a clever guy. And I don't know what it is that I used to know the formula. It was something like, something like 300 streams to get a pound or a dollar? I don't care. It was so boring. And indeed, we may dive into that in another video. But my music is on Spotify, and I've sometimes had fans of mine or people I coach, or sometimes people trying to sort of challenge me as to, Vaughan, shouldn't you be making a moral stand by not putting your music on Spotify? Well, the thing is, my beef is not with Spotify. And coming back to me playing devil's advocate earlier on, there are people on Spotify that are making a lot of money. But these are super duper stars, Billie Eilish, you take like DJs like DJ Tiesto, they've got millions and millions and millions of followers, and they get millions and millions of plays. And I suppose when you get to that level, it does equate to a lot. Remember, before streaming came, we had, iTunes, and we thought that was bad when people would have to pay 99 cents or 79 English cents for a song, and we were moaning about that. Then, of course, Spotify came along, and you could get all this music for $10 a month. Now, Spotify does make a lot of sense for the end user, because before streaming came along, you could buy a song on iTunes for let's talk 99 American cents. So that would mean if you've got $10 a month to spend on songs, you would buy 10 songs a month, and there's your $10 gone. Along comes Spotify and says, give us that $10 a month, and you can listen to any song forever for as much as you want, for, limitless. So here's the dilemma. We as human beings are not prepared to pay for things that we can get for free. So if you're getting for $10 a month, you can listen to as much music as you want. Why should you go out and buy someone's album? My fans buy my albums. I'm very grateful to you. And I'm sure if you're an independent artist and you've got a following, they hopefully do support you in the same way. But the reality is, the technology has made it in such a way that people can just get your music for free, and streaming is virtually free. So there are pros and there are cons to this. And, my fans, I'm very grateful when they buy my music on hard copy. But I know for a fact that it's easier for them to just stream it. Hell, it's easier for me to just put my music straight onto streaming platforms as opposed to, pressing vinyls and things like that. But, I'm old school, and that's a completely different subject. I guess what I'm saying is, if you're an independent artist, it makes sense to put your music out everywhere. I just feel that I wish they could be a little bit more fair. Maybe I'm being naive, but, if they paid you 1 pence per stream, would that be asking too much? There are the people right at the top who are making huge figures, whereas most musicians are living hand to mouth. And I said this earlier on, and I sincerely think that the person who can crack this dilemma of the dilemma that the artists have, they're going to be the next Bill Gates. Because let's just face it, now is a great time for music and, for technology, for people to get out there and to do their own product. It's a great, great time. But like with all great things, great technology, it's a double-edged sword. There are pros and cons. So should you as an independent artist have your music up on Spotify? I'm not going to tell you what to do. That is for you to decide. I do it. Do I make money from Spotify? Yes, I do. Do I make a lot? Hell no. You heard how much on that video I just reacted to, how little his daughter got for, so many streams. And I read an article with Gary Newman as well, where he talked about how little he got for so many. So the industry, I don't want to say it's broken. We're in a strange time, not only in the world stage of affairs, but let's keep it to what's relevant to this channel. We're in a strange time where this is a great time for us to express ourselves artistically. It's a great time for us to be seen artistically. without having someone else have to pick us up. We can do it all ourselves. But there is the challenge of how do we monetize this? How do we make it pay for ourselves? And this is where I want to open this up to a more in-depth series. I want your input as a fan, a music fan, or if you're an independent artist. Let me know your thoughts below on the Spotify situation. Do you put your music on Spotify? Do you not? And as I said earlier, what I tend to do is when I release my music, I always tend to put it up on Bandcamp first for about a month, and that gives my sort of hardcore fans a chance to, you know, purchase it and support me. Thank you very much. And then after that, I make it available on streaming. And, you know, every month I'll log into my account and I'll say, oh, thank you, Spotify. You've paid me a few pennies. Thank you very much. That's really going to change my life. But it's a huge debate, and I'm going to cap it right here. Guys, thank you so much for your support. If this is your first time to my channel, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit like, introduce yourself. Let me know what you think about Spotify. Lots of love, guys. I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and there's a lot of good stuff coming, so watch this space. Adios.